Hi, good evening, and welcome to Get Me to New York vlog 11. Yeah, I think it's 11, maybe 12, I'm not sure. It will say below anyway, why do I need to repeat it? Okay, but welcome anyway. This is Monday evening, and I have something I think really super interesting to talk about tonight. I've actually just come away from an event, and I was going to just go back to reverting to kind of standard business blog tonight, but everything I'm doing right now is leading up to New York. You know that and I know that. So it's still Get Me to New York vlog, okay? And I was on the plane back to London on Tuesday, and I met this really, really interesting woman, and I was just randomly sat beside her. And we started talking, and her name was Janice, and she had been in Kuwait for the last 20, 30 years, and her story was so inspiring, and she knew so much about Kuwait, she knew so many people. It was just fantastic to listen to her. So when we were parting, when we were going our separate ways in the plane, she said to me, I was telling her what we were doing, and she said, there's this really interesting event that you should attend on Monday night. And it was called a symposium. I wasn't really sure what a symposium was, but it sounds like a really, really big, grand word for a big, highfalutin event. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'm in. It was actually held by the IMF, so the International Monetary Fund, and it was about the diversification of the economy in Kuwait over the next few years to end the reliance on oil, which is really interesting, because if you're in business at the moment and you're not aware of what's happening with the oil price and with how that's affecting business in the Middle East, it's something you should probably maybe start learning a wee bit about. I don't know a lot about it, to be honest, but I'm very aware of it being out here, and I tend to keep an eye on it. That being said, I'm a big believer that macroeconomics don't have as big an influence on your business as people would help you believe, or people would have you believe. But the theme tonight was, well, while oil prices, at an all-time low, and oil reserves are finite, we should be looking at other income streams for Kuwait. And your income streams into a country are how you make your money. So they were talking about, instead of being reliant on oil, you could diversify into industries which either use the same raw materials as oil, or you could diversify into industries which use the same skills as oil. And there was a whole host of kind of random industries mentioned. And they talked about countries which had done this very successfully in terms of diversifying their economy, countries such as Korea and Japan. And there was a couple of really interesting points made, and I know they were talking about countries, right? But I heard businesses, and it was really, really relevant to businesses. So I wanted to share them with you tonight, if that's okay, and I hope you'll get some value from them. And if anybody's already bored talking about macro stuff, then just switch off. I'm sure tomorrow night we'll be talking about nice goal setting stuff again. Okay, so one thing that we're talking about was natural resources. And if you have natural resources in a country, so for example, Scotland in the North Sea has oil and Kuwait has oil, but they were talking about industries such as high tech and high production industries, like the car manufacturing industry, the steel industry, the electronics industries, all those kind of things. And in those industries, an extremely small percentage of the natural resources that are required are found in the countries that do it. So if you're in Kuwait, you automatically go into oil production because you've got oil there and it's oil that you're producing. But just because you're in car manufacturing doesn't mean that you have to set up in a company which is known for manufacturing. I wrote down what it was because I knew I was going to forget. There's this really, really small element of a natural resource that's required for the car manufacturing industry. Imagine it's something to do with the metals. So you don't need to set up in a country which has that. You can set up in a country and import that. So for example, what Japan did when they set up their car manufacturing was they imported, what Korea did when they set up their steel industry, that was it, was they imported these natural resources from Australia and from Canada. And they're both something like 6,000 miles away from them. And I thought this was extremely interesting Because when you're setting up a business, what people tell you to do is to do what you're good at and to follow your passion, which is true. You should follow something that you're passionate about. But what if you're passionate about something that you're not good at? Or what if you're passionate about something you don't know anything about? For example, Elon Musk is passionate about changing the world and passionate about space travel and very passionate about looking at things and seeing, why is it this way, why can't it be another way? I don't imagine he's extremely passionate about all the research that goes into finding out what's the best nut and bolt to use on the tyre of his new Tesla, but he employs somebody who does it and he brings people in. And I think that's a really interesting point when it comes to the way they spoke about it at a macro level. It's don't let the absence of natural resources stop you from getting into an industry when you can import them. Don't let the absence of natural talent stop you from setting up a business that you're passionate about, because hard work will beat natural talent every single time. And if you're really passionate about setting up a law firm and you're not a lawyer, all you need to do is employ really, really, really good lawyers, and you find the thing that makes you different and the thing that makes you stand out. You don't need to be an expert to start a business. And I really like that. So the other thing that we're talking about was the uniqueness of Dubai. And what's happened in Dubai is Dubai was a desert 25 years ago maybe, and all of a sudden they've turned the desert into this place where it's like a tourist attraction, and they did that by building the most unique and amazing towers and going above and beyond and doing everything that they can, and it's been fantastic and it's worked very, very well. It's had its economic problems, but it's a lot more stable market now, and it's a great place to visit. I'm actually taking my dad there this weekend. I can't wait. What he said is, don't try and be Dubai. Dubai worked and it's brilliant, but don't try and replicate that. Just because that worked, it doesn't mean that if you spend 10 billion right now in a desert town in, say, Kuwait or Oman or Qatar and build the same thing, that people are going to go, because Dubai's been done. But what he did say sounded to me very much like, but find your own Dubai. Find your own thing that nobody else has done before. And just because it's not been done doesn't mean that it can't be done. Nobody would have thought 30 years ago that Dubai would be the premier tourist destination now. Like, they just wouldn't have, and it's the most luxurious place to go for holidays and everything like that, and all the glitz and the glamour that comes with it, that wasn't there 30 years ago. It didn't exist. So what business do you want to do that wasn't there 30 years ago and that didn't exist? And just do it and find your own way and forge your own path. And I really like that point. I'm really, really interested in that one. The other one was, he was given advice to the GCC, and when I'm saying he, by the way, this was a very senior guy with the IMF, and he wrote this book called 23 Things They Didn't Tell You About Capitalism, or 23 Things You Didn't Know About Capitalism, something like that. I've not read it, but I'm going to check it out, because he was, you know, when somebody speaks and you just instantly get how intelligent they are. Like, when I speak and you kind of instantly get that I'm not. No, but this guy was supremely intelligent. His wealth of knowledge was just fantastic. So he was given advice to the GCC on, where you're at right now doesn't matter. He said, don't not diversify because you're in a position where maybe you're reliant on oil, or you've got other problems, or, you know, that you've got other issues which is going to stop you growing. He said, successful countries which have done it started from a much lower point than you. So his lesson was, there's always a model that you can follow of somebody who was of a country who was in a worse position that is now performing or outperforming that in that industry, who's outperforming you and outperforming all the competitors. And I loved that, because what it reminded me of is when you're modelling people in business, and when you model somebody who started from a worse place than you. And actually, in a phone call where I was talking to my colleague Brian about today, and we were talking about good business books to read, because we like sharing that kind of knowledge, and I was like, it's really good to read books of people who've been through really tough times, because when you read it, it just gives you faith and it gives you hope that if they can survive that, you can survive this. And my mum used to always have this saying when I was younger, and she said, this too shall pass. And that stayed with me my whole life, and it's always been a phrase that I hear coming into my head every time I think that whatever I'm going through is the worst thing in the world. And I always, my go-to point when that happens is to research somebody who had less than I had, who had less than what I started, who was from a lower position, if you like, who had less going for them, had less opportunities, and I followed their rise to fame, or their rise to success, or their rise to riches, or whatever it was. And to think that at a macro level in the world, that's what the International Monetary Fund are telling countries to do, that just amazes me. It just shows me that what we're doing in business, like what we're doing here, how we learn from each other, how we share ideas, how we model each other, there's something in that, because countries are learning from us. They're deciding foreign policy and economic diversification based on what works in business models. That blows me away. So the last one, and this was quite an interesting one. He said that the one differentiating factor of successful countries who have diversified their economies and went into new technological markets and everything like that, the one thing that set them apart was, even though they at first failed in what they were doing, or they came across stumbling blocks, they kept going. And he told the story that when Korea decided they wanted a shipbuilding industry, I don't believe they have a shipbuilding industry anymore, but I didn't know they even had one. Korea decided they wanted a shipbuilding industry, and they spent all this money on it, and it was fantastic. And they built the first ship, and they put it in the harbour, and it sank in the harbour on its inauguration. And after that, they just went back. He said, well, that was great. He said, because then we realised, well, we've done something that doesn't work. It doesn't float. And that's the very, very function of a ship. So many people will start their business and realise that it fails at something, and then they'll just throw their hands up and give up and go, well, it doesn't work. It's not a business because it didn't do that thing it's supposed to do, which is supposed to make me money. But actually, if you're creating a business just to make money, you shouldn't be in business anyway. And really, if it fails, it just tells you something that's not working. Just adapt that, stop it, stop doing what you're doing instantly, and change and do something that is working. And the overall feedback and outtakes and impression that I got from this event tonight was that businesses are just as important as countries, because being adaptable, being able to diversify, being aware of what's going on in the world, turning to other examples in other businesses and countries, if you like, other businesses for advice, and following what they've done and learning from their mistakes, and just trying and failing and then trying again, but creating all these multiple different streams of income so that your brand is more diverse and is less subject to then other macro factors such as, recessions and everything like that. That's exactly what a business is. That's exactly how you should run your business. And the way that he really got the point across was he spoke about two particular industries before, and I'm going to get my phone out for this one because I will forget who they were, but I sent this to my brother earlier and he came up with another one as well. So it's before becoming electronics giants, Samsung was producing textile and sugar. And before becoming a massive phone producer, Nokia produced timber and rubber boots. And I sent that to my brother and he sent me back saying, and remember, Lamborghini used to make tractors. So I'm going to leave you with that tonight. Remember that Lamborghini once made tractors, and if he's given me false information and that's wrong, I'm going to kill him. But I trust him, I think that's right. So whatever you're doing just now, if you're making tractors and you're struggling with it and you're just about ready to give up, just remember that you're only one new idea away from building the world's best supercar. Okay, I hope that helps. Such an amazing event tonight. I can't even tell you how buzzing I am after it. And I hope that gets me to New York a bit faster. I'll see you all tomorrow night for the next instalment, which is either 12 or 13. Depending on which one I've got wrong tonight. Okay, good night guys. Bye.